Breaking news right now. Moments ago here at a federal courthouse in Los Angeles, a judge sentencing a scuba boat dive captain to 4 years behind bars, 3 years supervised release for criminal negligence after 34 people died in a fire aboard his vessel. The dive boat captain, Jerry Boylan, who abandoned the ship during that fire, is the one sentenced. Let's listen in to U.S. Attorney Martin Estrada.
FBI, ATF, and U.S. Coast Guard. 34 innocent people died because of this defendant, Jerry Boylan. Because of this defendant's actions, 34 brave people, wonderful people, husbands and wives, sons and daughters, cousins, friends, grandchildren, are not with us here anymore. And the people they left behind, the families, their loved ones, will have to live with that pain for the rest of their lives. I want to be very clear that what happened here in this incident was not an accident. This was a criminal act. If this defendant had not failed to take basic security measures, those victims would still be with us here today, and all these families behind me would not have to suffer the grief that they have been going through. This defendant could have done many things to avoid this tragedy. If this defendant had only trained and drilled his crew on the firefighting equipment that was on the ship, powerful firefighting equipment, including hoses, including pumps, with a limitless supply of water. If he had trained them to use that equipment, this tragedy could have been avoided. If he had had a night patrol, a basic measure to have someone awake at night to catch if something went wrong, that person could have caught this fire, tried to stop it, tried to warn the victims, and this tragedy wouldn't have occurred. And this ship had an intercom system. If this defendant had used that intercom system to warn the victims on that ship, to tell them that he was going to abandon them, they would have had a fighting chance to survive. But this defendant failed to do any of those things, and that's why we're here today.
How do you feel about what the judge decided? 4 years behind bars, 3 years supervised release. I know that's not what you wanted. How do you feel about it?
This defendant never accepted responsibility for his actions, but he was convicted. Thankfully, a jury convicted him for his crimes, and today he's been sentenced to 4 years. And certainly, 4 years was not what we wanted. We wanted 10 years. We thought the appropriate sentence was 10 years in this case. But the sentence is determined by the judge. We respect that process. The judge determines the sentence. But certainly we thought 10 years was appropriate here. But let me say this, and this is important. The conviction and sentence here are important, but we recognize no conviction and no sentence can bring back these victims. And no conviction or sentence can alleviate the tremendous pain that these families have gone through and will continue to go through for the rest of their lives. But the conviction does matter because it shows there is accountability. It shows that for those who have an obligation to keep people safe, when they fail in that obligation, there will be consequences. And another important thing about this case, I want to recognize and acknowledge the strength of the victims' families and loved ones who are behind me. It took incredible courage to go up there and speak to the court. It took incredible patience to sit through this process. The legal system takes time, and they were patient throughout this process. And I'm grateful for their courage and for the faith they showed in my office to bring them justice. I also want to acknowledge the trial team in this matter, the Assistant United States Attorneys who worked so tirelessly on this case. They are also standing behind me. Those are Assistant United States Attorneys Mark Williams, Brian Fairstein, Matt O'Brien. Also, I want to acknowledge Alex Robbins, and I want to acknowledge Juan Rodriguez for his important work in this case. And finally, I want to acknowledge the various agencies that worked on this case, the FBI, the ATF, the Coast Guard, as well as the Ventura Fire Department and the Santa Barbara Sheriff's Office.
Do you plan
Sir, is it possible for us to
criminal charges against anybody else in connection with this
have one of the
fire?
family members of the victim step up?
We've achieved justice in this case. We believe we've achieved justice for the victims in this case. Certainly, as I mentioned, we believed a 10-year sentence was appropriate, but we respect the process, we respect the legal process, and believe the conviction here does matter.
Deterrence factor was one thing that was mentioned in the court numerous times by the prosecutors. Do you think this sentence sends that message to the diving industry, to, if you will, the maritime industry, on how you treat passengers?
I think the conviction and sentence in this case show that deterrent effect. We invested significant resources. We have 4 AUSAs working on this case to bring this person to justice. This is a statute that's rarely used. We used it in this case. We were flexible, we were nimble. We had this defendant convicted, and now he's going to serve 4 years in prison. I will now turn it over to my counterparts to the FBI.
Good afternoon. My name is Sean Hayworth, and I'm Assistant Special Agent in charge with the FBI here with the Criminal Division here in LA. For me, I still remember September 2nd, getting the phone call and the shock that we felt, and soon after sending our folks and our specialty teams to work with the other agencies so that we could figure out how this happened and what we could do about it. This case to us is about accountability for the tragic loss of 34 people and Mr. Boylan's failure to live up to the position as captain and title in which he was entrusted to safeguard those under his command. A captain ensures that his crew is trained and he carries out every life-saving measure possible, but that did not happen. The fate of the victims of the conception might have been different were it not for the negligence of the defendant. While today's sentencing cannot bring these 34 souls back to their families, I hope this measure of justice will aid them in their continuing healing process, and that this tragedy will serve as a cautionary example to others who command our vessels. I'd like to acknowledge the years of hard work that went into this investigation. This was a difficult crime scene, and the evidence presented a variety of technical challenges. I'd like to say thank you to our investigators at the Coast Guard, Santa Barbara Sheriff's Department, the ATF, and the FBI, including our FBI USER, our underwater diving team, and to the prosecutors who stayed the course over these almost 5 years of this investigation. I know this case affected many of them deeply. Thank you. I'd like to introduce the U.S. Coast Guard Investigative Service, SAC, Randy Thompson.
One more time, your name, sir?
My name is Sean Hayworth.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Special Agent in Charge, Randy Thompson, with the Coast Guard Investigative Service in the Pacific region. I would like to thank all of our law enforcement partners and the Department of Justice with the U.S. Attorney's Office for all the support and help in getting this case brought to a successful conclusion. But most of all, I'd like to acknowledge the victims and their families in this terrible tragedy. Nothing that we've done could I hope bring back any solace to what the loss that they've had, and it's just a terrible tragedy. And I hope that the maritime industry takes significant notes from what has happened here today, and makes changes that need to happen to make the industry safer for everyone. Thank you.
Is he going to still hold his captain's license after he serves his sentence?
No, sir.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jose Pedro. I'm the Acting Assistant Special Agent in charge here in Los Angeles. I want to thank everybody of the partners here, U.S. Attorney's Office, FBI, Coast Guard, and everybody who worked this case. But I want to thank the ATF National Response Team, who responded within 24 hours of this tragedy and were on scene, working hand in hand with our partners, trying to resolve this tragedy. Their work didn't stop here. They worked for over 2.5 years back in Maryland in our research lab, where they actually constructed a model of the ship out there, and they did over 100 tests. And I hope at the end that the family can get some of the answers they deserve. Again, I mean, there's no words to quell their pain, but I just hope that we all learn from this tragedy, and we'll never see anything like this happen again. Thank you.
We have time for just a few more questions, and then we'll open the floor to the families if they want to talk.
Any questions?
Can you talk about supervised release and what that involves?
Sure. So when the defendant is under supervised release, the probation office will keep them under supervision, and if they commit other illegal acts or violate the conditions of their supervised release, then they can be brought back before the court and potentially receive more time in prison.
Does that mean an ankle monitor? Like between now and his hearing in July, what is his life like? Is he completely free?
So during the time now, he's under what's known as pretrial supervision. So there is an office that supervises his actions and makes sure he's not violating any terms. I don't know the exact terms off the top of my head, but he is under supervision now and certainly will be after he serves his prison sentence. Any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, I think we're done here. So.
All right, you've been watching a live press conference outside the Los Angeles federal court, and in the background behind these gentlemen just speaking were gathered family members of these 33 passengers who have been killed, one crewman who was killed. You see right there one woman holding a photo of her loved one. All of this coming today after a federal judge sentenced that scuba dive boat captain to 4 years behind bars, 3-year supervised release for criminal negligence after 34 people died. Let's listen in now to the family.
N. McIlvain, MC, capital I-L-V-A-I-N, and my husband is Clark McIlvain. Yeah. Sure. Sorry. We're very relieved that this is finally over, but we really felt like our son's life and those of the others was certainly worth more than 1 month and 4 days. That's basically what Boylan got, 48 months. I so appreciate everything the prosecution did to get a conviction. They worked very hard. The FBI was wonderful. Everyone, the ATF, everyone just supported us this whole journey, and I want to thank them all for everything they did too. Our lives are changed forever. And I don't really know how that we go forward, but we'll give it a shot for Charlie.
Our hope that the sentence would perform a function of general deterrence. I'm not sure that a young captain, say a 30-year-old captain, would look at 4 years as being enough to deter him if he was even caught. I mean, the reason this happened is captains, and plenty of captains out there still, just didn't believe it was a regulation worth following, that it would never turn into the tragedy it did.
Thank you.
What is your name, sir?
Clark McIlvain.
Can you tell us your son's name?
Charlie McIlvain.
Yeah.
Charles McIlvain.
This is our daughter-in-law. Go.
I'm not going to talk, but I'll show you the photo. But thank you.
The family of Charlie McIlvain just speaking, as you heard, they say the sentence of 4 years behind bars is simply not enough for the death of their son in this horrific accident you remember happened back on September 2nd of 2019. He was one of the 33 passengers killed, one crewman killed when that dive boat caught fire. Let's hear if there's another family member that's about to speak.
My name is James Adamick. That's A-D-A-M-I-C. I lost my sister, Diana Adamick, brother-in-law, Stephen Salika, and niece, Tia Salika.
What are your thoughts about what transpired in court?
I don't care much about the sentence. What angers me is that his statement, is that Jerry Boylan's statement was not an admission of responsibility. It was that he felt sadness over the loss. Well, who doesn't? Everybody, when I see a loss of life anywhere, I feel sadness over that. He never once said, I was wrong. And that's the part that angers me tremendously. He never accepted responsibility for his role in this. He never has, and I doubt he ever will.
You may have mentioned in your love one.
My sister, Diana Adamick. Thank you.
What
I'm Susana Solano Rosas, Christina Cuitasol, Carla, Suheiri Pompa, just me.
Okay, so we just need your
Okay, Susana Solano Rosas. S-U-S-A-N-A, last name S-O-L-A-N-O, space R-O-S-A-S.
And who was your loved one?
My loved ones were Evan Solano Cuitasol, Angela Solano Cuitasol, Nicole Solano Cuitasol, and their dad, Michael Storm Cuitasol. We lost four. My 3 daughters and their dad. I want to say I'm relief that there was a conviction. I want to say thank you to the legal team that got the conviction and worked really hard for it. I'm disappointed, very, very disappointed in the sentencing of 4 years and 3 years probation for the loss of 34 lives. It's I've lost my belief in our justice system that we have here in our country, because I would have expected at least 10 years. But we got to accept what it is. There was a trial, and I'm accepting the conviction. I'm saddened that he didn't get arrested and had to do the time, and that we have to come back another time for more hearings. Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
All right, another family member just speaking again of disappointment at this 4-year sentence.
Hi, my name is Vicki Moore, and my husband Scott and my daughter Kendra were lost. That was half of my family, and they were lost needlessly in a terrible tragedy that was entirely preventable, as we all have heard. And I know there's a lot of talk of sentencing and how many years, and I wanted to just repeat what one of the family members said, which was all of us are serving our own life sentence of grief and loss. It doesn't go away. We're still here. We're still here on earth. We're still living our lives, but the grief doesn't go away. And I think that that's really important for all to understand, that the loss of my own family members and the other 32 is absolutely immeasurable. And as they say, nothing brings them back. But I am glad that the conviction went through, and I am living my life to honor them. And I'm living my life because I want my husband and daughter to be proud of me and how I represent them. Thank you.
Your name, dear?
Vicki Moore, V-I-C-K-I-M-O-O-R-E.
Sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
If you can keep the photo here for just a second.
Oh, sure.
Again, you have been listening to the family members of the 33 passengers killed aboard a dive boat in 2019, listening to them react after that captain who abandoned the ship, prosecutors say, without so much as lifting a single fire extinguisher or notifying passengers through the PA system.
B-A-R-B-A-R-A, Chan,
He was just sentenced,
C-H-A-N.
and that's what these family members here are reacting to
Kendra was
now.
my niece. Scott was my kid brother. These 4.5 years have been an immensely difficult journey, not only for myself, but for the rest of our extended family and all the others who can't be here today. I don't know what my brother or my niece would say about the sentencing, but what I do know is that we, as a family, for speaking the truth. And what I wanted from Mr. Boylan today was to admit that he had not used the fire axe, had not used the fire extinguisher that was in the wheelhouse, had not even rung the alarm bell to warn the 34 people in the bunk room. And, you know, maybe he had bad health, but he should have been thinking about his passengers before jumping off the boat and commanding his crew to leave the boat as well. I was not attached to a sentence, but I am attached to atonement. I want Mr. Boylan to admit what he did and to atone for his negligence and not following the law.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
Sorry for your loss.
I'd like to say something. My name is Rain Chan Kalin, R-A-I-N, last name CHAN-KALIN. Kendra was my baby cousin, and this is my Uncle Scott. I think, I don't think that we don't all agree, and it was, I just want to take this opportunity to say that the jury found Jerry Boylan guilty, and I believe that he was, but I don't feel that there is any value for myself in any further suffering. I think that, like other people have said, we now are living a lifetime sentence of pain and grief, and I think that there is compassion in all of us for everyone who was involved that night, whether they were responsible or not. And I think that that's important to state, that we are all going to suffer forever, including Jerry Boylan. I do believe that. Thank you.
All right, it looks like most of the family members there have spoken after 70-year-old Captain Jerry Boylan was sentenced to 4 years behind bars for the 2019 deaths of 34 passengers aboard his ship just off of Santa Cruz. 33 of them were just passengers. One was a crewman. He was sentenced to 4 years behind bars. And a key point, after his 2023 conviction, he never admitted any guilt and never apologized to the families. Many of the family members, after the sentence came down today, saying that that is one of the more painful parts. Of course, we'll continue to follow this and have the very latest coming up on KCAL News at 4.